subscribe to start.
And we're back. You're listening to the Exitology, Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the #1 global business talk and news network on the internet, IBGR, International Business Growth Radio. The world of business at your fingertips. Folks, I'm Jason Wally Waldron, your host for today. And this season, we've been discussing creating lasting value, even in a challenging economy. And before we start to pepper our guest, Leah Zimmerman, with more sticky family business questions, I want to remind our listeners that you can always go to exitology.com, click Contact Us, send in a question, and I will make sure it gets answered on an upcoming show. And with that, Leah, welcome back. I want to talk about engineers and folks who think like engineers. And I want to also talk about something that they don't like at all, which is emotions. And I work with a lot of engineers and engineer types, and in various forms and fashions, they've said these words to me. Well, I'm surrounded by a bunch of dumb you-know-whats, and they're all trying to steal from me. And that's the world that I live in. And it's like, when I heard that, oh my gosh, like that's a really scary world to live in. And so I want to just touch on, I'll just open the floor. Like, what is even going on there?
That's a really good question. There are probably a lot of things and a lot of ways to unpack it. One is people who are in the engineering schooling is very competitive.
Okay.
You have to be at the top of the curve. My husband's roommate, when he was my boyfriend, was an electrical engineer, and I was always marveling over how hard he had to study, how much it mattered. And it really does feel real that somebody else might come up and take away your spot.
Okay.
You have to work hard to maintain that. So I'm going to say that there is a way in which the schooling of math and STEM sometimes, not always, but certainly in the past, is made to feel that way. I would say that it also can be very influenced by the fact that a lot of the people who are going into our STEM and into our engineering are first-generation immigrants or immigrants themselves, and they're coming from developing countries. And there is that very much that feeling that you're trying to get ahead and that at any moment you could be pulled down.
That's really, really interesting. And hold that thought for a second, because what occurs to me is it's not just engineers and engineer types. I see this a lot. We work with a lot of wealth managers who are out there, and wealth managers oftentimes have the same situation. And really a lot of these, even manufacturing types and, people who seem to be very, very left brain and very, very, to your point, very, very exactly first generation to the opportunity that is America. And so with that, what else are you seeing? Is there family pressure? Is there the need to make it? Is like what else is
pressure,
going on?
There's stakes. Now, for example, now I don't know all these cultures super well, but being in the top of your class shows that you're going to get out of it, that you're going to get from there. Whereas if you're not, so the Jewish immigrants had this too, a number of generations back.
Yeah.
How important it was to be at the top and the highest scoring, because that meant you're going to get out of this economic circumstance. You have to get ahead, or you're going to be pulled back into the poverty or into the circumstances that you've come from that keep you stuck. And
so do you see people acting out? Is that what they're doing then? Because again, there's emotions around this. It's got to go somewhere. Like what kind of behaviors do you see coming to bear?
So it's interesting you say that, because I haven't as much the experience of people acting out, but I am coaching a client right now who comes from somewhere like that, is in software development, and is very hyper vigilant to who might be trying to threaten her and take her and take the job away. And one of the things we're working on is the communication, the interpretation, and the communication that's not just reactiveness. So what happens is it brings up reactivity. So one thing is to recognize there's a hypervigilance of where am I, where do I stand, and who's threatening my status here.
Okay.
Because maintaining my status, the stakes feel very high.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a part of it. It's also part of a worldview of the world is a dangerous place. And depending where you come from, that is exactly how you will see it as a dangerous place.
Yep.
Whether you see the world as a dangerous place that you have to protect yourself from, or whether you start to recognize that the world is full of a place of opportunities that's working for you and that you can ride that opportunity, really changes the way you show up.
Wow.
Really
Yes.
the way you show up.
So I think it was helpful earlier when we talked through a business case. I'm going to throw another one at you and just see what you think. I was recently on the line talking to a second generation wealth manager, and without really doing too much, he's going to be making multiple six figures here in the next few years because his dad did all of the hard work, and his dad is getting older. And so systematically he's starting to pass down all the clients. And it's one of these deals where, you talk about the golden handcuffs or the golden goose or whatever. It's such an interesting situation because the gentleman who is receiving all of these gifts is anything but a self-actualized individual, whereas his dad has completely, the shadow is long, it is tall, it is dark, it is huge, and I don't know if son would ever get out of it. And so it's interesting because the business case is just don't screw this up, right? Like you don't have to learn hardly anything, just learn your craft and don't screw this up. But there's all these interesting things that happen on the personal level. And so that's just one case. I'm sure there's a million versions of that out there. But I'd be very curious to hear you speak to how does that go down, especially when you are talking to, again, engineering-minded people or, just folks who are super left-brained and tangible. There's a lot below the surface that goes on in these scenarios.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand specifically the question, what's going on there in terms of for the next generation who's now taking over the business. It's very hard for any of us to come step into shoes that we feel are really big for us.
Okay, yeah.
And if the parent has been so busy on their own growth, right? They've been, some of that self-actualization can come from the overcoming the challenges that happen in business.
Yeah.
You can only grow as well as your own growth. So as a leader, you can't grow your team any higher than your own maximum level of personal growth. And the more you grow in personal growth, the easier it is to handle the pressure of being at the top, the loneliness of the top, the criticism that comes with being that visible, how to handle the different conflicts that come up. These are all related to personal development, and mastering conversations is related to personal development. So I don't know if that's part of what you're talking about, but to grow up watching someone else be on top of their game is a way of always feeling that you're going to be second. And there's a mindset of, well, I'm not the one who's first, I'm the one who's second. How do you overcome that? And that takes some intervention to be able to recognize that you have to give yourself permission. Well, who am I to feel that I can outdo my parent? And the way that it's been set up in the family structure, there's a moment of realizing, what if I outdo? You have to give yourself permission to outdo the parent too. Okay. But you have to start to recognize when you're in the shadow and what's keeping you stuck in the shadow and whether that's comfortable. That's where you want to be.
So what, that entire, that entire moment there, I thought was very insightful, and it brings up a question for me. It was insightful for a number of reasons. One is because you explained why it can feel like you're in the shadow, and you explained really the boundaries of leadership and how as a leader you must expand beyond that to bring other people up with you and all of these things. But you also said something that I thought was very interesting about how you feel like you're second the whole time. And so I want to ask kind of a weird question. Is it okay for son to just accept that he's second?
It depends what it means to them. Because we generally live in a competitive culture, and that somebody's one up and one down. And it takes some time to realize that we can be similar levels and different. We can be incomparable snowflakes, incomparable roses, incomparable trees, instead of one's a little better. We have comparisonitis as a culture. Look what they have, look at what I have. So it's not usually comfortable to say I'm second. Most of us are not going to be willing to accept that I'm second. But what does that mean to be second? I'm second to come into this. So I have an entire look. Can I feel gratitude for the fact that I'm receiving this? Or do I feel overwhelmed? Who am I to deserve this? Look at what my parent was able to do. I would never be able to do that. I don't have the skills. I didn't even work for this. So who am I to deserve it? Is one set of narratives that can come. And the other can just be, depends how that parent treated that child. Did the parent treat that child like someone who they believed in, you can do this too, and they groom them for it? Or did they like to always be the one on top? And so then the role that I've learned is that I'm not good enough, and I'll never be good enough. And an internalized belief system that I don't even recognize that I have, but it's one that's going to hold me stuck, or that my whole world will shatter if I change it, because I'll have to make the world entirely different.
So given that you're on the Exitology podcast, I'm going to bring this right back, of course, to a super tangible business case, because that's what I do. But I'm curious, have you seen situations where you walked in, you thought that what you were going to do was coach harmony into a situation, but at the end of the day, it was like, nope, mom and dad, you need to cash this thing out. You need to pass this money on to the successor people over here. Take care of the family however you want. Like, just pull the ripcord and get rid of this problem. Like, have you ever seen things go that way where it ends up, what I'm trying to say is your coaching ends up catalyzing a change that nobody saw coming?
I haven't. Well, the one that I can think of that was like that, again, I'm working with the individual who's working in his father's business. This was an attorney firm. And what was different was when he finally realized and could see his father as a person who was acting out instead of being correct in his demeaning of him. Like realizing that whatever he did, as he grew strength in the business, one thing that happens is a parent thinks they want their child to grow strong in the business, yet their identity is built on the fact that they're the one. They're the top of the game in the business. And so as he grew and realized, and to see his father is acting out in reverse, the empowerment that created, I think was more than anyone could see coming. So definitely, I don't know what's coming often. People don't know what's coming. But I haven't seen people go, oh, yeah, now I need to just get out. That's a rare.
Perfect. And so
the ones who do they want to get out.
Cool. So we're going to take a short 2-minute break. We dive into some related concepts of this. If you like what you're hearing, hit exitologybook.com, grab the first chapter. And if you like that, it'll keep coming at you. We'll see you in 2 minutes.